Hello and welcome back. I am Conan Librarian with Conan's EDC, Easy Dad Carry, and today I'm going to go over 5 things you can do with a bottle opener that seems to be on every multi-tool and everything else these days that is not opening your bottles. However, we're not going with any of these easy ones. Today, I'm going to show you 5 useful things to do with this piece of junk survival card bottle opener. Let's take a look. Alright, so first off, big shout out to Publidove. He put a comment in my flea market EDC pouch build. I'll put the link up here, asking for 5 good alternative uses to a bottle opener that's on multi-tools. They say that they never actually use it for opening bottles. And he actually called out a couple of us, myself, Surviving the Daily, and Uncommon EDC. Both of which are actually in my recommended channels to watch. So go check them out, absolutely. And shout out to you guys, and this is a call out, I'm asking you. And, I thought there's a lot of videos about hacks and things like that. You can go on and find that you can use these as socket holders and all sorts of things. So I wanted something a little bit different. And so I immediately thought, well, you know what doesn't get used a lot? It gets bashed by the EDC and survival community alike, are these guys, these basic, generic survival cards. These things seem to come with everything and in everything. It's honestly, I think a lot of people probably have something like this floating around. It has the quote essentials. It has a lot of things. I'll pause it here. Now, I am of the opinion that the tool you have is better than the tool you don't. This is a hunk of metal, and it's better than not having a hunk of metal. Whether it has a saw, whether it has a box wrench, whatever it has, there is, I'm going to say, a 99% chance that there is a cap lifter built into one of these cards. Now, my opinion of these is pretty low still, and it is for most people. There are a couple cards I actually really like. This Q-Shave I picked up a while ago. I was carrying this in my wallet. I still actually carry it in my EDC bag. This is actually a pretty nice comb. It's a couple neat features. Also a cap lifter. The one I've been using a lot, actually, is my lever gear. This is the Toolcard Pro. This is an awesome card. Go check this out. Link down below. I really like this thing because it has a lot of really actual useful features built into it. So, over time, my opinion of these cards, at least the capabilities that are possible with them, has grown. However, a guy like this really is just kind of, well, meh. And when it comes down to a cap lifter especially, when I first got this challenge, I said, absolutely, challenge accepted. And once I hit enter, I realized I had no idea what I was going to do. So I've been doing some looking around, I've been doing some thinking, and you know what? I came up with 5 things, so yeah, let's take a look. Now, something to consider, some of the things I'm going to do with this here specifically could be done with some of these other tools on here, but say all you had was this. Say it was a blank card, because I've seen them out there, just a blank card that has a bottle opener. So let's just imagine it doesn't have the other tools. Well, something I found and I really thought about, especially because this is a big chunk of metal, and it actually has, and most of them do, flat edges. The way this thing is produced, it's rounded on one side, but the bottom is still a little bit sharp on there. So, something I always think about is it useful for starting a fire? Now, here's what I'm going to do. I actually haven't tested this. I think it's going to work. It may take a little bit, so I'll probably fast forward until I get a good spark. But there we go. Whoa. So, that actually did work. Honestly, better than I thought. Now, this is fairly awkward, but that actually throws a pretty good spark. So, say you have a ferro rod. I mean, chances are you have something else, but at the same time, ferro rod and bottle lifter, yeah, cap lifter, totally works as a striker. So, boop, number 1, works as a striker for a ferro rod. All right. So the next thing I thought about is the fact that kind of like the ferro rod here, this could be used for scraping a lot of things. And so something I thought about was kindling, especially if we're going to then use it to strike a fire. So it's a tool for breaking. Now, that being said, obviously I could do this with my bare hands, but what if this was kind of, we'll say, spiny? You could step on this on the ground and then use this to tear and break. And I bet you, now this is obviously some just dry stuff that I picked up in my yard that I've been doing some cleaning with, but this can be used for making little shavings. Now, you're not going to use this for probably, a feather stick, but at the same time, as much as I'm making a mess here, this can absolutely be used for treating and making kindling, whether it's fine dust. Say you had a magnesium rod, you could definitely use this to shave. So, yeah, we're going to say use number 2, preparing, treating, and creating small kindling. All right, sorry, just had to do some cleanup here. We're going to get into the third use. The third use is actually storage for cordage. Now, like I said, we're going to pretend like this doesn't have any other tools on it. And if it does, well, you could use a lot of other things to help with this part too, but we don't want to do that. This one actually has some blades here, and maybe yours would, maybe yours wouldn't. However, what this comes down to is being able to, we're going to put just a little knot here, not that you would, or maybe you would want to, so that it doesn't, come loose, but wrapping it around the card itself. You could then tuck it under. You could actually make this fairly tight, so you would have a point to actually store cordage. Or say you had tape, you wanted to store tape around this. I know I'm using cordage, but, well, tell you what. All right, so say you have some tape. Now, this is just an example, aside from cordage. Now, cordage can be anything from paracord to fishing line to Kevlar cord, but say you want a place to store some of this. Again, we're going to treat this like it's just a blank card. You could wrap it, and you have a place for cordage, whatever type you might be dealing with. I'm actually going to do this. This might help, so I'm not sawing anything that I'm actually working on, too. So there we go. You could wrap it around the rest of the body here. Now, that being said, say you didn't want to do that, or you didn't have tape to cover something sharp, or however your card might be set up, you could definitely use this and simply wrap around the inside of this cap lifter. All right, and so on and so forth, depending on how long your cordage is. That way, too, maybe you're trying to protect an edge. So a way to store cordage itself. Maybe it's not pretty, but maybe you want to keep everything kind of together. Again, it'd probably be easier to wrap it around the whole body. However, this isn't a terrible way to store cordage, or at least a convenient place, because it can actually wind around this. Another thing to think about here, we're going to kind of tie this into number 3 here, is that you can use this for a fishing reel. We'll put that with this one too. Cordage, storage, and fishing reel. If you have fishing line and you need something to hang it off of, you could absolutely use this cap lifter portion here to wind and tie off fishing line. This can also, because it's, this tough piece of stainless steel, like most of them are, you could absolutely do something like, say you want to hammer this into the ground or wedge this into something. If you're going to hang a drag line, you could absolutely use this as a makeshift fishing reel. So, yeah, number 3, cordage, storage, and fishing reel. Maybe that'll be number 3.5. 3.5, cordage storage, and fishing reel. All right, so number 4, while we're still talking about cordage and using this as kind of an anchor point, like I said, 3.5 fishing line, we could use this as a, well, a hook or a way to anchor something. Let's treat this like, well, let's say we have a flashlight on here. There we go. This becomes a point where you can hang something off of. And say you want to put this, well, in a pocket if you don't have something to loop this around, or you don't want to loop it around yourself. And you could, of course, wrap this up. You could tie it closer so that this could... Here, let's take a look. We're going to treat this like this is a shirt pocket. You have something then to hang a flashlight off of. Or say you want to hang it overhead. Maybe you're trying to hang something from a tree or some sort of support. Being able to wedge this somewhere wouldn't necessarily be very hard. Now, obviously, it depends on your situation. But using this as a tether or a wedge point to secure gear to yourself or some other point could absolutely be useful. I am a big fan of attaching things to things. And being able to use this to actually, like I said, secure whether it's a flashlight or other gear could actually be pretty useful, especially say you want to make it quick release. If you wedge this up, say on top of a, well, between two branches and hang something from it. Say you wedge this, you put it in your tent pocket somewhere. Yeah, maybe covered in tape so that it's not too tight, or rather is going to cut anything. But you have, again, a way to hang something useful or hang a piece of gear. So we're going to say number 4, an anchor point for gear, whether on yourself or from something else. So number 4, 4.5, maybe a freebie. This might not work for everyone, but this can definitely be used as a phone stand, because with this, most people these days actually have a case. And my bet, unless you're one of those insane people that doesn't have some sort of case on your phone, there is more than likely a lip that could be set on this and used as a prop. Now, I'm not going to unlock my phone, but as you can see, I'm tapping on it, and it is not falling over. Now, that doesn't mean it wouldn't ever, but maybe you wedge this in something. This can absolutely be used as a makeshift phone stand. So, yeah, like I said, might not work for everyone. We're just going to call that a freebie. All right. So, number 5 is probably the most obvious while being the least obvious. And it's actually taking advantage of the fact that this is actually a big hunk of stainless steel, like I keep calling it. So, a big hunk of stainless steel, while it may not be amazing cutting quality, even if it has these edges, a hunk of steel is good for, say you need to bash something, for example. Now, this is just essentially an Altoids tin, but and you can see that we're putting a pretty good dent in this thing. Now, again, that's probably not going to punch through titanium. However, the point is, this can be used for, say you need to break glass. You'd want to hold this securely, never put your fingers through it. And I mean, there are other better tools out there for that. And that is to say, everything I've shown can be accomplished by other tools. However, something like this, like I said, good for bashing, good for testing. Say you need to move around something hot. Say you need to move around something cold. If you have good anchor points, this can be even used for picking things up. Now, it's not very often you'll have something hot or cold that this can actually slide onto. But the fact is, this can actually be used for just generally not using your hands. So yeah, like I said, there are a lot of other tools that can accomplish what this thing can accomplish. Actual knives for scraping, all sorts of things. But, like I said, I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to say, Puebladove, I think that's 5 pretty good ways to use a cap lifter on a multi-tool. Stay safe, be prepared, and have a great day.